Hello, this is Sheila Sophia, the podcast. My name is Memsahib Amonat. Africans take names seriously. When people for whom English is a first language describe names considered ethnic, they often reduce them to cultural quirks or charming little traditions because for them, a lot of their names are, well, charming, quirky, a little fun, nothing too serious. You'll hear ethnic names being translated to Little Squirrel or Waterfall Thunder because to them, it really is not that serious. Waterfall Thunder means just that, the thunderous sound of the waterfall. There is nothing, or they make it seem like there is nothing, in their lexicon of emotions that can adequately translate the spirit of the waterfall or its thunder into intelligible words. The might, the power, the healing, the unrelentingness of it all, the sound that sets the world aright. In Africa, naming traditions are serious business. They are an exercise in theological precision, a cosmological event that draws on the living dead, the ancestors, spirits, natural forces, and deities. To name a child in African traditions is to speak a destiny into a body that has just arrived, while honoring that the soul has likely been here many times before. You are not just describing who they are, you are remembering who they once were, declaring who they will become, which lineage carries them through this lifetime, and possibly why. You are stating what they and their ancestors have already decided. The name is not a label. The name is a contract, a thing that makes real and tangible that which couldn't be written down, even if all the words and all the tongues were used. African names are symbolism, attempts, acknowledgements that while the real thing we're trying to help this child say about themselves is beyond words, here is how we tried. My mother understood this because she was born on the continent and can therefore be considered African, but she couldn't contextualize it properly because she's Christian first. My assigned African name troubled her. You see, she was in her early 30s when she had me, and saved in that deeply evangelical, fundamentalist, committed way that makes a believer certain. I think I've said this on a previous episode. And she is dogmatic to this day. Hers is a kind of salvation that is less a faith and more a total reorganization of the self around a singular authority. A part of me admires it. I find it courageous. The kind that if you have grown up around it or inside of it, you recognize the closed-offness of its nature immediately. It's a faith that expects itself to dictate, but to never take instructions. It views itself as right, correct, as the way to personally be and the way all others should be. And one of these days we're going to have a conversation about the differences between open and closed monotheisms. A system that decides in advance what is true, what is dangerous, what must be brought into alignment, and what must simply be endured until God deals with it. There's a main gate in that kind of saved, but every room has a rigidly manned door too. Monotheistic faiths are notorious for not just that they profess a singular deity, but that it is not enough for them to have their one deity. The existence of everyone else's deities is considered offensive to the gods of closed monotheisms, and because their faithful see themselves as the hands and feet of their gods on earth, their reaction is often to find ways to defend their perceived right of their god to be the only one in existence in whichever ways they are able to access. She understood her culture and her world well enough to know there wasn't a possible existence in which I wasn't going to inherit her mother-in-law's name. She was Pentecostal and evangelical Christian enough to struggle with this fact. She struggled so much that she found herself a name that could counter what she thought would be the looming negative effects of her child inheriting the name of a mother-in-law she didn't always get along with. A mother-in-law whose relationship with Jesus had not, in my mother's assessment, been properly formalized. And that mattered. In her system, her worldview, it mattered enormously who had been washed properly by the blood of the Lamb and who had not. I like to think she would have struggled less had I had to inherit a name from her own people. Those hearts had been adequately possessed and processed through the right channels, sanctified, made acceptable. They were, and still are, a respected Christian family in their area. Her father having been one of the first to convert to the religion in his village and take his daughters to school. But her in-laws existed in a category she had not yet resolved, and she did not like that her daughter would carry one of their names into the world. What she did with that was predictable if you know how closed systems handle internal conflict, neither allowing herself to sit with the discomfort, nor trying to understand what the name's full origins and meanings were. She opened her Bible and she spoke over it, performing what she thought was a kind of spiritual override. The words of Matthew chapter 5 were laid across the name like a seal, a correction, paint over a repaired section of a wall, a hedge against whatever darkness she thought my African name would invite. So let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. And so she named me Light, but in French, not as an offering, as a management strategy. There was a sword in it, my name. Imagine that, being born with a sword that tore your mother into two as your name. And it had two edges. She was trying to anoint what she feared. She was trying to resolve a conflict she had named correctly, but only halfway understood. She knew the name carried darkness, the African name that is. The root word within it is literally just black. I am named of black, or belonging to black. She was right, like all people of the light are right. She was wrong, like all those who are blind to the dark are wrong. Darkness is not so much the absence of light as the thing that contextualizes it. No, let me rearrange. Light is not the absence of darkness, only the thing that gives it context. Within every particle of light is a corresponding darkness that it has given context. The darkness is the default. It is the water of the womb, the cover of the soil, the depth of the ocean, the source of all life. When it swallows itself enough times, a kind of internal pressure is created. Should that pressure be concentrated, it bursts forth into light. Light takes energy. You have to keep it up. Lights consume. The darkness regenerates all on its own. The darkness in my name is the condition that makes the light within it possible. It is the origin of light. It is the thing that decides what the light illuminates. A name like mine is a cosmological statement. It places me, situates firmly, says that I belong somewhere. I belong to something, a philosophy, a way of thinking, a way of seeing. I belong to the dark. I'm a being of the dark. And when you hold that name alongside a second name that means radiance, luminosity, 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 the thing that makes the world visible. It is simplistic to judge it as contradiction. What you have is a building with good bones, a complete sentence, one of the answers to a question most people never quite stop to ask. And it is this: from whence doth the light come? To see in the light is ordinary. The eye does not have to work, if at all. Everything is laid flat and offered up. But to see in darkness, to move in it, to know it from within, to read its textures and its silences, that requires everything you have. It requires your full vision, your full range of senses. You cannot afford to be lazy in the dark. Everything matters because in the dark, all is matter. What the light is incapable of contextualizing is missed. But in the dark, all must be felt and acknowledged. In darkness, you learn to see truthfully because nothing is lit for your convenience. It is why so many people are scared of darkness. It carries an immediate truth, but you don't have anything telling you what to see. You see yourself in all things, and if within you is fear, then of course, you'll be afraid to have nothing but yourself for light. On the other hand, if you are not merely in the darkness, but are the darkness itself, if you are the one who decides what the light touches and what it does not, then you are beyond navigating the world. You are composing it. You are doing what the divine does, becoming, in the oldest sense of the word, God. My mother spoke Matthew over me, hoping to resolve a tension, to put a nice little bow on the conflict within her spirit. Or maybe she chose to transfer the tension, giving me a name she hoped would lead me to her God by overriding the conflict she imagined I would have with a name ruled by forces such as the dark. It wasn't in her expectations that I would have no such conflict to begin with. It never occurred to her that I was naming myself, telling the world that this child that I just received was a light belonging to the darkness, a light informed by the darkness, a child who knew the dark well enough to not need the light to see within it, while also being a child who had mastered the dark enough to know how to illuminate oneself for the sake of those whose vision is limited to the light. Long before she named me, I had made myself known. The name was not given to me. I arrived with it. I made it clear before I could speak who I was and who I belonged to. The name was the announcement. See you the next time I feel like saying something.